Up next on Happy Harry Hashbrown. Hashbrown Harry goes one on one with the most powerful man in all Valley Karate, Ron, aka Matt Lewis. Stick around. Take a right. Check it out. Hey, what's up, Cobra Kai fans? This is Happy Harry Hashbrown, and I am Hashbrown Harry. And Cobra Kai is taking over the internet right now. It's blowing up number one on Netflix. It always been number one in YouTube. And for those of us that were Karate Kid fans from the 80s, it's number one in our hearts right now. And I am lucky and I am privileged to be sitting with Matt Lewis, aka Ron, from Cobra Kai season one, also known as the most powerful man in all of Valley Karate right now. You got all the control, brother. What's happening?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is a pleasure. I am excited. So Cobra Kai, number one, blowing up Netflix right now. I saw a tweet this morning. Mick Foley of the WWE is now a fan. Chat me up, man. How you feeling about that?
It's fantastic. I mean, it's it's cool, but it's strange because this season one was shot several years ago, and it's been on TV for a while. But we all knew as soon as we found out about the move to Netflix that was just going to be like the coolest thing ever, and it has been, because it's just got such a bigger umbrella, and more people in the world can see it. It's being dubbed into more languages than it was through YouTube. So I mean, literally almost all over the world, people are able to watch Cobra Kai now. So it's awesome. Carrie Underwood was on Twitter the other day talking about how much she loved the show. I mean, it's been really cool.
Is it the same show because she spelled it with a K?
She did spell it with a K, but in all fairness, she did come back and go like, "Hey, my bad. I know how to spell Cobra. I just, honest mistake."
And then the official account put her on blast and said, "Thanks, Carrie," with a K. So gotta love the humor of that. How'd you get the part? What's going on there? Like, you're from Georgia. They film in Georgia. I know in Wilmington, where I'm from in North Carolina, they have casting calls sometimes. So what'd you do? Tell us about it.
It was just through the standard audition process. And anytime anything's shooting, they'll release casting breakdowns and sort of have a rough outline of the age and sometimes the sex of the character and sometimes the race of the character. A lot of times that's all just sort of wide open. A lot of the auditions that I have are for a lot of times male, open ethnicity, 30s to 50s. So they don't know what they want to see exactly. They want to see a wide swatch of humans, and then they'll just see what they like and go from there. So production will release a casting breakdown, and then that goes to the casting agents, and then the casting agents will send that breakdown to the talent agencies, and then they look through their rosters and see who matches those profiles, and then we get auditions. Bajo Sanubi was doing the casting for 1 and 2. The casting director is now Feldstein Paris for season 3, and I think moving forward. But Bajo is one of the only casting directors in Atlanta that would do a lot of in-person auditions. So I actually got to go in and audition for him, and I think I auditioned for 3 other roles before Ron. And got a call back for one, and then ended up having a call back for Ron and booked it. So I was there with the big 3 for that callback, and booked the gig. And then so I knew that I was going to be in episode 7, but then they just said like, "Hey, it's going to be recurring, but we're still writing, so there's going to be a tournament. You guys will be back for the tournament." But we didn't really know about shooting episode 10 until maybe a week or 2 before that happened. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you had a brief spot in episode 10, but your friend there with it's a badass name for a dojo and the blue mats, he got all the screen time in that one. What's your Karate Kid legacy like? Like, were you a fan as a kid? Were you like a super fan? And that you said, "Oh hell yeah, I want to do Cobra Kai." Like, tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when the auditions first started coming in for Cobra Kai, I mean, I still remember seeing the first one. They don't send us the whole script; they'll just send us like a page or 2, and then they just have us tape ourselves doing the scene. So it's just the camera pointed at me, and then I've got a friend on the other side of the camera that's reading all of the other lines, and I just sort of do my little scene and then send my video off, and hopefully things move from there. So I saw this thing called Cobra Kai, and I was like, wait, that's wait, what? And so like, and everything that I got to read was just, like I said, I was just getting a few pages here and there, but it was all just brilliant. And it was like everything that we love so much about the show. It was funny, but it still had a lot of heart, and it was still honoring the Karate Kid legacy. It wasn't making fun of it. You know, it's still self-aware, because it's silly that these 50-year-old men still have this high school karate dojo rivalry. Right. But they take it so seriously. That's what makes it work. That's what makes it funny. So yeah, like, and you know, they shoot a lot of stuff here. They shoot Walking Dead here. They shoot Stranger Things here. They shoot all the Marvel movies here. And you know, as soon as I started getting stuff for Cobra Kai, I was just like, you know what? I would love to be in all of those things too, but please, universe, I want to be in Cobra Kai. Like that. Let's make that happen.
Put the karma out there. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then we can work on the other things later. But so yeah, and like, you know, growing up, and I got to tell Ralph this in person when we were shooting episode 7, when I got comfortable enough to start chit-chatting with him. That in the summer of '84, when Karate Kid came out, my dad had just gotten a new job, and we had moved to a different state for the first time. And so when Daniel was a new kid, so was I. And, you know, we moved at the beginning of the summer, and there weren't a lot of kids in my neighborhood just like right there. So I didn't meet anybody to hang out with until school started, you know, 2 or 3 months later. So that was a really lonely summer. But Karate Kid came out. I got the soundtrack on vinyl. I recorded it from the record to a cassette, so I could put it on my giant Walkman with the chest strap. And I just rode my bike around and rocked that thing out all summer long.
Listening to Cruel Summer, right?
Yeah. And then, yeah, so I was a Karate Kid super fan. And then it's funny too, or interesting story too, because then my family moved again 2 years later. And that was the summer that the Goonies came out, which is about, and you know, by then I had made friends and stuff, and I'd been in this town for 2 years, I was living in Indiana. And then the summer that Goonies came out, you know, our little Goonie group got broken up too, and I had to move away. So that movie ended up being really special to me. But yeah, Karate Kid fan for life.
Yeah, there's something about '80s movies that's they touched us back then, man. They found a way to get to, especially with kids. You know, my father was a Marine, so I was always a new kid somewhere, you know, traveling from place to place. One of my observations about season 1, at least, because there was no All Valley Championship in season 2, was how much they changed it. You know, first of all, the colors, you know, went from black and white to blue and yellow, and there were some references in there that if you were here in the '80s, karate was everything. And then Dimitri even said, "What's going on? I didn't know about this."
It's been going on for 50 years.
Yeah, you know, is there a sense that that maybe karate in the Valley isn't taken as seriously in 2018, 2019 as it was, say, in the '80s? And is that something the show's trying to portray? And if it is, are the creators looking to bring that seriousness of karate back?
That's a good question, and I think that the conceit in the show is that karate was huge in the '80s in the Valley, and then, you know, the popularity of it has dissipated over the decades. And so that's sort of when Daryl's like, you know, attendance is dwindling, like, we got to do something to shake things up. Let's change the color of the mats, you know, let's get new food vendors. Like, what are we going to do to get butts and seats? But then I think over the course of season 1 and then 2, you know, we definitely see like the popularity of karate grow again in the Valley on the show. And, you know, all these new kids are getting back into it. And think about how big the Cobra Kai dojo grows from when it first opens to, you know, the end of season 2. That's pretty drastic.
So what about the arena? Because the arena seems, maybe it's just because I'm older, but the arena seems smaller to me than it did in 1984. It's obviously not the same building. It's a rebuild, right?
Yeah, it's not the same building at all. That was shot in a basketball / I'm pretty sure it's one of those deals where it's a basketball court, but then they can move the basketball court out of the way and it's got a pool underneath. But it's on the Marietta campus of Kennesaw State University, which is like I'm a part-time professor on the main campus of Kennesaw State University. Mm-hmm. I teach online-only classes in their theater program, and that's kind of like my day job. But they, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, they purchased a smaller junior college called Southern Polytech, and they turned that into a satellite campus, the Marietta campus of Kennesaw State University. So it shot in that basketball stadium. And in the original movie, the All Valley tournament, the crowd is surrounding the fighting ring on all 4 sides. Whereas in the one at the end of season 1, it's obviously just, you know, the bleachers on one side. And then we're sitting at that dais with the big score banner and all that stuff on the other side. So yeah, I think it is a little smaller. They probably had, to shoot episode 10, we were there for the whole week that they shot, because we had to, you know, we were in all of the fighting sequences. So they probably had like, I don't know, 200 background or something like that to fill out those stands. But then I remember one of the last days of that week, we got this random snowstorm, and it started snowing really hard. And eventually we sort of wrapped it up and we got out a little early, but it was just it got kind of crazy, because we were like, man, we're up here, like we're all trying to get home when this is over, and we've got, you know, 200-300 background people here, and there's a snowstorm going on. I drove down 85 in my little Prius back into Atlanta at like 8 miles an hour the whole way.
Prius in a snowstorm. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, those things they're actually great because they're really low to the ground and they're front wheel drive. So
okay,
like we had, you know, the Snowpocalypse that we had down here. Like I saw a bunch of, like, you know, those big Chevy F10 pickup trucks and whatever. Those things are sliding all over the place because they're made out of aluminum and they're rear-wheel drive. All the Priuses were the ones that were like trucking around, you know.
You're pulling the rednecks out of ditches with your Prius, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Here's a continuity question. It's a super nerdy question, by the way, but it's something that I noticed, and a couple people that I've chatted with have noticed. And I don't know if you could answer it. I don't know if you have any inside knowledge, but maybe you could at least give me your thoughts on it. If you remember Karate Kid 3, it was announced right before the final fight that Terry Silver bought and donated the Cobra Kai All Valley, the arena there, and he was the benefactor of it, and it's probably how he got Mike Barnes to be able to fight. But how do they ban him 20 years, 30 years later? He donates the building and he can no longer, you know.
I honestly don't know still to this day the answer to that question. I know that I've seen in interviews, John Hurwitz was asked about that, and he was like, yeah, we just kind of like, I wish that would have been clearer, or, you know, so I don't know. I remember when we were there for episode 7, it was our first day on set. We had just gotten there. I'm talking to Billy Zabka and Ralph Macchio and the creators of Hot Tub Time Machine. And, you know, like in my line of work, like I get to meet, you know, famous people, but like, it would be one thing to say like, oh, wow, I got to do the scene with Ralph Macchio. It was really cool. It's like, no, I got to sit next to the Karate Kid. And he talked to me. Sure. And so did Johnny. So that was pretty insane. But point being, we're sitting there and we're passing around these pictures. And I was sort of questioning like why we were referencing the first movie, I think, but then we were talking about Karate Kid 3 stuff. And I was sitting there trying to piece it together. And then I realized, like, I hadn't seen Karate Kid 3 in a long time, mainly because it sucks. I mean, it's funny, but I don't like it.
Not a fan. Okay.
It's not good. It's super corny. I mean, if I'm in the mood to watch The Room, I'll watch The Room. And if I'm in the mood to watch the Karate Kid 3, I will. But I would rather watch 1 or 2. But I remember we were sitting there and we were passing these pictures around, and I was confused, but it had been a long time. And I just assumed that, you know, somebody would say something. Maybe, you know, Ralph sitting right there, he might say something. And he was sort of looking, I remember him sort of mumbling to me at some point. He was like, these might be the wrong pictures. But we just sort of like shot it. And then, you know, later, once we saw the episode, we sort of realized it was kind of incongruent. But, you know.
Okay, so that's been passed around amongst cast and crew, that like that same idea.
Yeah, I mean, we're making references to things that are not in the pictures, and it wouldn't be Mike Barnes and Terry Silver. It would be the Cobra Kai dojo that got banned for Johnny's behavior in the first movie, right? Or am I getting that wrong? Ow.
Yeah, okay. I think I see where you're going with that.
I think
Go ahead.
it's just one of those things where like sometimes you want to think that there's like a grand plan behind every single thing, and sometimes people just make goofy mistakes when they're writing stuff, and
there's not. Yeah. I got you. Let's chat about you, man. Chat me up. Tell me your story. Give me a brief. Like you got you're teaching acting at a university, and you're an actor. Like how'd you get into it? What made you decide? Hey, I want to get on the screen.
Growing up, my dad was a theater guy, and he has a PhD in theater, and he. When I was little, like we didn't have a lot of money for babysitters or anything like that. So especially in the summers, my brother and I just had to go to work with dad. So he'd go in and meet with his doctorate advisor and turn in some pages for his PhD. And then he'd teach a couple classes and have a meeting or whatever. And so we'd have to go to school with him from like 10 to 2 or 3. So I sat through, rehearsals for plays. I sat through classes he had to teach, whatever he had to do. We just had to sit in the back and be quiet. And so I observed a lot of, my dad doing stuff like that when I was really young, like, first grade, second grade. And then by the time I was in middle school, he had gotten a job at, you might have heard of it. It's a small community college in Jamestown, North Carolina, right outside of Greensboro, called Guilford Technical Community College. And
I believe I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina's got a huge technical college system. It's got one of the best in the country, but that's the one that serves like, the Greensboro area. And he got a job there and founded a 2-year associate's degree program for theater. And so he started with nothing. And by the time he left, almost 30 years later, he had built this fully fledged program where people could get a 2 years associate's degree in theater and then transfer to another college or university and finish out their degree there. And so he was like this one-man band that knew how to do everything. I mean, he built the sets, he designed the costumes, he lit the shows, he trained the stage managers, he taught the actors acting classes, he would direct the shows, he would run the damn box office, like he did everything. And later on, when that program got a little bigger, he was able to hire some, part-time people and come in and help, but he really grew that thing from the ground up. So when I was 11, it was one of the first years that department had been around, and he was doing this play called The Foreigner, which is a really like classic American comedy, really funny. And he asked me to be in it. He asked me to play this character named Ellard. And I'd never done anything like that before. And I was like, no, that sounds awful. I don't want to go to work with my dad all summer. I want to skateboard with my friends. Like, no. And he kept asking. He was like, you got to do it. Like, I'm in it already. I have nobody. I need a human to be in this play. You have to do it. And eventually he lied and told me that he had put my name in the programs. The university had printed out thousands of programs. And if I didn't do the play, they were going to throw those programs away and he might get in trouble. And so I did it. But then it turned out to be like so fun. There are all these like, pretty college girls, and it was a comedy, and making people laugh and, in a live audience, like that synergy is just like, it's awesome and it's addictive. So, I started doing in middle school, I started doing plays on the college level on my dad's program, and then, drama club in high school and all that stuff. And I went to a school that had a really good theater program in Winston-Salem, and, went to college for it and all that stuff, and ended up getting my master's degree in acting from the University of Alabama in 2012. And so I was in Atlanta since '98, but I took most of my 20s off. I didn't act in my 20s. I sang for this punk rock band, and I was a bartender, and then the band broke up and I was sick of being a bartender, and I still hadn't finished my bachelor's degree. I dropped out. And so I went back to school at Kennesaw State University for 3 years, graduated from there in 08, and then went to Bama in 09, and then came back to Atlanta, where I'd been since '98, and been teaching part-time at Kennesaw and doing plays and film and television and commercials and audiobooks and whatever the hell anybody wants to pay me for ever since.
What do you like better, stage or being on film?
I love them both. They're both really different. I mean, here and here, they're the same, but then, the external skill sets that you're utilizing are different. The camera is very, very intimate, and you can be very subtle and small. Whereas on stage, you've got to make sure that, somebody 80 rows back can still tell what's going on in your brain. So they're different. Theater is more challenging. In some ways, that rush of the live experience is something that you just can't compare anything else to. But at the same time, the time commitment and the amount of work that it takes. I mean, if I'm in a musical, I'm in rehearsal for 5 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, and then a 4, 5, 6 week. I've done 15, 16 week runs of a play, and that's 40 hours of work on top of whatever we're all doing during the day. So that time commitment's huge. It's stressful because now that I've been doing more film and television, having to balance my availability, because if somebody's offering me a theater contract, I have to say, okay, but I'm perpetually potentially reoccurring on at least 2 TV shows right now, and then whatever else happens. So if they call me in and they want me to shoot an episode of Cobra Kai, I'm going to go do that, and you're going to have to go let me do that, and I'm going to be gone for 2 days or 7 days or whatever. So you just have to put my understudy in and understand. And some theaters are cool about that and some aren't. So, that's the thing with theater. On the other hand, with film and television, like, you're exposed to a wider audience. It's something that doesn't, it's not ephemeral. It's not something that just disappears when the play closes. It's something that you can, we can watch Cobra Kai as long as our eyeballs work and we're still alive. And then also with film and television and commercials and whatever else, the paycheck is a lot better. And I've got kids that like food and, clothes and stuff like that. So I just kind of, I like to keep these days I've been doing more film and television than anything else, but I'll still do a play like every other year if the role is good and I have availability and the paycheck's good and all that stuff, then I'll do it. But I used to do like 4, 5, 6 plays a year, and I don't do that many anymore.
You get to write your own history. What would be the one role you'd always want to play? TV, me, if I could, I would want to be Jax Teller from Sons of Anarchy. I thought it was just like one of the best.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a hard question to answer because, I could say like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I could say, I really want to be the sheriff on Stranger Things. But that guy is already the sheriff on Stranger Things, and he's really good at it. And so, like, I didn't know that I wanted to be Ron on Cobra Kai until that character was created and somebody provided the opportunity for me to try. So there, yeah, sure, there are musicals and, plays and I love Shakespeare and all sorts of classical theater too. So there's stuff that I'd like to do, but it's really more along the lines of like, what's in front of me? What is the audition for? Is this something that, because, half the time, especially if you're not familiar with the material, you're going into it and it's a blank slate. And then once you read it and start to really explore that piece, whatever it is, you're like, oh my God, like, this is the thing I want to do right now. This is it, So
then you get to make it your own too. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, just like I was saying before, there's all sorts of stuff that shoots here, and there are a lot of, I'm so thankful to be a part of Cobra Kai, and there are other, dozens of other universes that shoot here that I would love to be a part of too. I mean, if somebody was like, hey, you're going to do 4 episodes in The Walking Dead, it's not like I would say no. You know what I mean?
But you have to be a walker, and nobody will recognize you because of the makeup.
They need svelte walkers. They don't have many walkers my size, unless they just got bit.
Right. What's if you if somebody comes to you and says, Ron, I want to get into the business, man. I'm I don't know nothing. I'm a nobody. I just like, I got a personality. I could act. I could bullshit. I could talk. What do you say to them? You say, what's your advice?
You just got to study. Acting is a learnable skill that anyone can learn how to do. Anybody. It's just like learning how to drive a stick shift or play a guitar or swing a golf club. Anybody can learn how to do it. Now, that being said, there are some people out there like my brother who, you know, when he was, I don't know, in middle school, he was like, man, I'm gonna learn how to play guitar. And he just started hanging around this guitar shop and screwing around with this guitar. And a couple of weeks later, like, he's a guitar player. And I, you know, and he's one of those guys that can just like grab an instrument and just sort of figure it out, you know. And I've never been, I've tried to play guitar a dozen times and it's just never stuck. But if I really applied myself and put in the extra work that I would need to put in, because it's not, you know, a natural talent that I have, I could still learn how to be a really good guitar player. It just takes training. So you've got to keep studying. You've got to go see plays. You got to watch film and television with a discernible eye, not with an audience eye, but with an eye on the craft. And, you know, just take classes wherever you can. If you're in high school, find that drama club and figure out what they're doing. If you're in college, almost all universities offer, I know Kennesaw State does, they've got an acting class for non-majors where I've taught it before more than once. You just start from the ground up at the very beginning, and you know, you can start there. And then there's, especially with the film and television boom in the Southeast, there's all sorts of places where you can get private one-on-one coaching, or you can take classes with a group of people. But yeah, if you want to do it, it's just like anything else. You just got to, you know, apply yourself and study and put in the work and work harder than anybody else and show up on time. I've always said that there's 4 things as an actor that you can be in control of. You got to show up on time, you got to know your lines, you got to brush your teeth, don't be an asshole. If you do those 4 things, everything else will fall into place.
So oral hygiene is really that important.
Well, in this COVID era, you know, we're not doing many plays these days, but before that, we're literally spitting in each other's faces for like 2.5 hours. So like, I'm going to do somebody a solid, brush your teeth, maybe pop an Altoid before you go out there and start singing in their face or kissing them or whatever you're going to do, you know?
I've got a couple questions from a online group I'm in. Are you good for time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. First, I picked the best 2 that they gave me. Do you have a good behind the scenes Cobra Kai story you want to tell? You know, a good rib or a prank pull or something, you know, we've all seen outtakes. We've heard a couple good stories. You got one for you?
Yeah. I'm just sort of trying to think off the top of my head. There was one line that Johnny had when we were shooting the tournament in episode 10 of season 1, and it's when Bert is about to go fight, and all the other Cobras are like, "Yeah, no mercy, Bert, no mercy, Bert," and then the guy like flips over him and kicks him in the chest and wastes Bert because he weighs like 8 pounds. Johnny had a line that they shot that didn't make the cut, but as soon as that happens, it's supposed to cut back to Johnny, and he says, "Ow, that's gotta hurt," or something like that.
That should have been in there.
There was it was an ad-lib that Billy threw in when we were shooting episode 7, where I think it's where he says, like, I asked him if he'll give us a moment to cast our ballots, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, and thank you very much for your consideration." And then Daniel's like, "Oh God, just get out, whatever." Billy threw in an ad lib where he went to Sue, so he says something like, "Yes, I will, and thank you all very much for your time and consideration." Then he goes to Sue and he says something like, "And then I'd like to discuss something with you directly after. It doesn't have anything to do with this," or something like that. But it was like an ad lib where he's flirting with Sue, which was
kind of trying to flirt with her. Okay, get that vote.
But I mean, you know, it was a very very well run production. When we were eating dinner together on our dinner break, I was sitting with the other board members, just because we had, you know, we were shooting together and we had made friends and stuff. So we're just sitting there by ourselves eating. We're in for a day for episode 7. And so, you know, that happens a lot with co-stars. You sort of glom on to your other friends that get to be part of the party for the day or two before you are sent off. And John Hurwitz comes up to us and sits down with us and started, by then we had already been shooting for, you know, 3, 4, 5 hours before the dinner break. But he sat down with us and went down the table and like complimented all of us on our work and on our previous auditions for the show, and spent a lot of his dinner break talking to us, which is just so special. I mean, there are TV shows that I've done where like I didn't even meet the director. Like somebody was shouting at me from another room, or somebody comes over to translate notes and adjustments to me while I'm shooting. But for a producer to sit down and chat with us, like that's a testament to how cool John and Hayden and Josh are about the whole thing. And Ralph and Billy too. They were just awesome on set. Super kind, always around. They were never off hiding in their, fancy trailers. Same thing with all the kids. Like they were around too. We all just hung out and had a good time, and everyone was really sweet. Billy's, when we were shooting episode 10, Billy's wife and kid were on set a lot. And so he was, with his young son, taking him to craft services to get some gummy bears or whatever. It was just it was a really cool experience. It was really a unique and exceptional situation for everyone to be that awesome and kind, to not just to us, but to each other. It was just great.
I think that's part of the, oh my God.
I was just saying, like, everybody was having a blast. I mean, even the crew, like, they were all super fans. I mean, I would imagine it would be the same thing if you were on like an Avengers movie or something. Like no one is walking around the set of an Avengers movie going like, here we go, another Avengers movie. They're having a blast. Like they're living their dream. And so like the crew, like they all had Cobra Kai swag on and headbands and patches and the whole thing, man. It was awesome, especially with season 1, because we were all hoping that it would be a success, but you don't know until you get to see it.
I think part of the success of the show has been like just how, as you were saying, how kind everybody's been and how accessible everybody's been. I've talked to 3 or 4 cast members about doing, interviews thus far, and everybody's, they're just kind of up for it. My guy, when Martin Cove is retweeting some of my stuff, I'm like, yes,
yeah.
I've never seen a show that loves their fans that way, so personally. So it's been great.
I saw last night the Zach Robinson and the other gentleman, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the 2 guys that did the score interviewed with Cobra Kai Kid last night. Stuff like that is just, it's amazing. And it's, I've got friends that have been in The Walking Dead. I've had friends that have been in Stranger Things. I've got friends that have been on Stargirl. And being part of a show like Cobra Kai or like those shows that I just listed that the fandom is so rabid and so interactive, and like it's the kind of fan base that goes to like all the cons to meet everybody and stuff. Like it's just it's a blessing and a privilege to be a part of that and a part of the Cobra Kai universe. And yeah, it's just awesome. But I think really like I can only speak for myself in just learning how to be a badass and awesome and open, kind person. I learned that by example from the big 3. And so from the top down, they just, without saying anything, they were like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Like if fans want to talk to us on Twitter, we'll respond and do interviews and stuff like that. So there's just no aloofness or anything like that. They're just the 3 most grounded, most awesome people you could just ever imagine working with.
Yeah, it's been fun to kind of be part of that universe, and get to watch everybody, and like apparently some of the creators, they know some of these sort of people, like what they'll like, so they'll post something, like, hey, I know you like it. It's crazy. Last question is, and I know you can't really like spoil anything for me for season 3, but somebody asked, because people have talked about they've already seen season 3, people who were cast members. Have you seen season 3? And if you have, for those of us who've been waiting since April 2019, now we got to wait till 2021. Is it worth the wait?
I have not seen season 3.
You haven't?
I have not. And so there's not a lot about it except for little tiny pieces of it that I've read, because obviously I'm already in the show, so I'm not auditioning for other roles. That would be weird. But I have friends, because we're all taping each other all the time, or we were before COVID. Now we're just doing it. Like I just did it before this. I had my lighting set up and everything, and then I had my buddy come in on, how the hell did I do it? So I taped myself on my iPad, but then he was FaceTimed in on my phone, which is what I'm on now. And so he read with me that way. So he had some auditions, and I got to read some stuff here and there. But just like everything I saw in season 1 and season 2, like I know things that are happening that I can't talk about and won't talk about, but it's all really, everything that I saw was like really surprising and awesome and badass. And, yeah, I don't know.
So you're saying it's going to be worth the wait?
Absolutely, it's going to be worth the wait.
That's what people want to hear.
I don't think there's going to be any sort of shark jumping slump with these guys. I mean, I think they've got several things going for them. One is that, the three of them as a team just like work really well together. If you look at everything that the big three has ever done, like it's all just really good. And then they've got a team of writers that work with them on Cobra Kai. So, they're sort of like, maybe they write specific scenes, or maybe they're just like, here's the idea, here's the outline of the scene. And then the other writers will go in and sort of help craft that stuff. But, and great directors. Jen Cioletta came in to direct a bunch of episodes. And I mean, she was a producer and director on The Office. So you've got like the director of The Office coming in to direct episodes of, I don't remember what episode specifically she directed in the first 2 seasons. The only one I can remember off the bat, I know she did like 3 or 4, but I know she did the episode where Johnny kicks Miguel into the pool. She directed that episode.
Okay, yeah, that was a scary episode.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the fact that they're just, they're able to mine, the subtle humor of the writing. I mean, if you have the director of The Office, like that's going to make that work.
That's what she does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Last thing, man, you got anything you want to plug? You got anything you want to tell everybody about? What are you into? Where can they see you? How can they get in touch with you? What are you up to? What can they watch you?
Yeah. I'm on Twitter, Matt Lewis Actor on Twitter and Instagram, and I don't know what my Facebook handle is, but I'm on there. If you are dying to find me, you can, type my name in and go from there. This year has been weird because of the virus, so some things here and there are starting to ramp up production a little bit, but in the thick of things this time of year, in a normal year, I would have been getting somewhere between 3 and 10 auditions in a week. And now it's like 3 a month if I'm lucky. So I haven't shot a lot this year, but luckily there was stuff that I'd shot in previous years that was in the can, and I was just sort of waiting for it to come out. So I had a small role in Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart directed a movie called Irresistible with Steve Carell that came out maybe a month or 2 ago. I've got a small role on that. And then I played Natalia Dyer's dad in another movie called Yes, God, Yes, which is out now on iTunes. It would have been in the theaters now, but they're all closed. But it's out, it's on iTunes, Vudu, whatever, wherever you buy your streaming movies. You can rent it, you can buy it, and it's also out on DVD. So Irresistible, Yes, God, Yes. So those are 2 movies that came out this year. And then I'm also a very evil racist principal on Raising Dion on Netflix, which is a show. It's a really cool show. Have you heard? I saw you shaking your head. Have you heard of Raising Dion?
No, I haven't heard
Check it out. It's on Netflix. It's a really cool. It's a really cool thing. There was a guy that came up with this idea, and he made this 1-issue indie comic book called Raising Dion. I can't remember the timeline exactly, but like 4 or 5, maybe longer, years ago. And it's about a black mom who's a recent widow, and she has a black son who's very young. And her husband dies, like he works for the army, and there's experiments and lightning, and he dies in this mysterious way. And then shortly thereafter, the mom finds out because he had some sort of superpower or something. She finds out that Dion, her little boy, has superpowers. And so she's got to figure out how to teach him, because he's young. He's like, 7 or 8 or something like that. She's got to teach him how to rein that in and control it, because he could kill somebody. He's got telekinetic powers, and he can throw stuff across the room, and he almost gets hurt here and there. And so I'm his horribly racist principal that's really mean to him. And it's cool because I get what's coming to me later on in the episode, which is nice. I get taught a lesson. But it's one of the main reasons I was excited about being part of the show is because even though my character is a very horrible person, you see Dion have to navigate a scenario where he's being accused of something that he didn't do. But I just see some stuff go down on the playground, and since little Dion's black, I just assume that it's his fault and he started it. And then his mom is on the school campus, and so she gets involved in this conversation and this altercation, and I'm not very kind to her either. But so later on in another episode, I can't remember if it's the same episode or later, but later on in the show, the mom has the talk with Dion where Dion is like, why does Mr. Campbell not like me? What did I do? And, you know, his mom has to explain to him that, well, you know, Mr. Campbell wasn't raised right and he doesn't like you because you're black. And that's part of your challenge in your life for the rest of your life. And so seeing, you know, I have heard about these things, but, you know, as a Caucasian human, being able to have a window into that experience in a really honest and grounded way is just really like exceptional and special. So Raising Dion's on Netflix. I'm in episode 3 and 8.
3 and 8, so Raising Dion. Check it out. It's on Netflix.
Watch. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're watching Cobra Kai, you've got Netflix anyway. So Raising Dion, check it out.
Exactly.
Matt Lewis, you've been awesome. This is my first time doing anything like this. You're incidentally probably the most famous person I've ever talked to in my entire life. So thank you so much for being gracious. And it was a pleasure for you to talk to me today.
Yeah, same, man. Thank you.
All right, folks, Matt Lewis, check him out. Cobra Kai, Raising Dion. He's great. Check him out on Twitter. He's funny. He's awesome. And, man, I want to do this again. We'll see if you're in season 3 because I've got some questions for you if you are.
Cool.
All right. Thanks again, man. We'll catch you next time.
Yep.
Hey, Cobra Kai fans, if you like this video, if you like what you saw, don't forget to watch my other videos here, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can get more great Cobra Kai content. And this is Happy Harry Hashbrown. Until next time, saying no mercy!